Welcome to ATCM, the Emergency Medicine channel. Today we are discussing about hypovolemia and the management of hypovolemia in emergency room. We know that there are a lot of conditions which can have hypovolemia as a clinical feature. But the commonest condition is diarrhea, vomiting, sepsis. All these things come with hypovolemia and its complication. We know that traditionally we use pulse rate, BP, all these things to assess the hypovolemia status and urine output. We'll see how to manage hypovolemia in emergency room. We can see now the causes for hypovolemia. Extracellular volume reduced. There are two types of extracellular volume reduced conditions like extrarenal and renal loss. Extrarenal is GIT conditions like vomiting, diarrhea, nasogastric, continuous suction in ICU. Skin conditions like sweat, increased sweat like heat trauma, and burns. Both conditions you can lose fluid from the skin. Severe hemorrhages after trauma or pregnancy related hemorrhages. Renal loss are like diuretics, osmotic diuretics like diabetes, mannitol, diabetes insipidus, hyperaldosteronism, salt wasting, nephropathy. So all these conditions we can lose the volume, especially extracellular volume loss is associated. Whereas in conditions where the extracellular volume increased but effective circulatory volume is low, that is cardiac failure, where the patient is blotted up but there is reduced circulating volume, decreased cardiac output, that like cardiac failure, redistribution of fluid like hypoalbuminemia, cirrhosis, nephrotic syndrome, capillary leak, acute pancreatitis, ischemic bowel disease, increased venous capacitance like sepsis, where all the patient is having volume overload but circulatory volume is reduced. So either patient is completely volume status is completely depleted in body, that is ECF volume reduced. Other one is ECF volume is increased, like patient is having volume overload but effective circulatory volume is low. Whatever it is, the effective circulation volume is, whenever the effective circulatory volume is decreased, it can reduce the circulation to various organs. Now we can see the symptoms. Three sets of symptoms can occur in a patient who is having hypovolemic patient. One is due to volume depletion. Patient can have thirst, fatigue, weakness, muscle cramps, postural hypotension and dizziness, confusion, coma, oliguria, and concentrated urine. These are the findings directly because of the volume depletion. Now the clinical findings related to the cause of volume loss, like patient can have vomiting, diarrhea, polyuria, skin burns, or condition with third space loss like sepsis and pancreatitis. Next is due to the electrolyte and acid base disorders associated with the volume depletion, like patient can have hypokalemia, muscle weakness, tachypnea due to acidosis, lethargy, confusion, seizures, and coma. Hyponatremia can be there in some patients, but commonly whenever there is a reduced volume, you get hypernatremia. Where the volume is increased and effective circulation is reduced, you can even get dilutional hyponatremia also. One of the important clinical finding in emergency room to assess circulatory volume is decreased capillary refill time. Normally, we have to check the capillary refill time and it should be less than 2 seconds. If the capillary refill time is delayed, that means there is a problem for peripheral circulation. When it is delayed, you have to think that the circulatory volume is not good, effective circulation is not good. So capillary refill time, if it is prolonged, that is a sign of it's one of the most important sign of reduced effective circulation. Another important bedside investigation to know the fluid status and fluid responsiveness is passive leg raising test. Make the patient sit in 45-degree angle, the head and up position. Lower the patient's upper body to horizontal and passively raise the legs 45 degrees up. So elevate the legs, lower the patient's upper part, that is head end. Maximal effect occurs in 30 to 90 seconds. Assess for 10% increase in stroke volume. You can simply check the BP, but sometimes you may not get. Continuous BP monitoring is always good. But if the BP is improving after the leg and elevation, that is a sign of fluid responsiveness. This patient can be given fluid. If you don't have any other tool, it's a very simple investigation. You can pick up whether patient will improve with your IV fluids or not, because when you raise the leg, the volume from the legs will come to the central circulation. If the BP or stroke volume improves with the leg and elevation, you can treat the patient with fluid. It can increase the BP. That is the advantage of this test. Very simple test, bedside test, which can pick up fluid responsiveness. Next one is IVC diameter. It's a very simple clinical examination done with the ultrasound in your emergency department. So IVC diameter can be measured in emergency room. Before the treatment, we can measure the IVC, and during the treatment with IV fluids also, you can see the IVC diameter and collapsibility of the IVC. Both can give you an answer for whether we can treat the patient with fluid or whether we can continue the patient with fluid. Okay, so that's an advantage. IVC diameter and collapsibility is a very important tool in emergency room to pick up whether patient respond to your IV fluids or not. Next, invasive method. So in emergency room, it may not be possible, but once the patient is admitted to emergency ICU, we can have time to put a central venous catheterization. We can monitor the central venous pressure. Simple hypovolemia, it may not be required, but if you are treating a complex case with cardiac failure, hypovolemia and all, where the patient requires fluid boluses, you can ask for a central venous catheterization and central venous pressure monitoring. Normal values 8 to 10 centimeter of water. It should be 10 to 12 centimeter of water in an intubated and mechanically ventilated patient. If the patient is having very low CVP, we can give fluids. If the patient CVP is high, then fluid boluses should be restricted or monitored. So that is the advantage of central venous pressure. Somebody is having hypotension and admitted to your ICU. If you have a central venous pressure monitoring, then you can know whether the fluid boluses has created problem to the heart or not. So CVP monitoring is very, very important in patients who is having hypovolemia, especially when the patient is having fluid overloaded condition, where effective circulation is low but patient is having fluid overload. Anytime patient can have intravascular volume increase and patient can have cardiac failure and a lot of other issues. So CVP monitoring is very important in that type of cases, not in simple hypovolemia. Now, important blood investigation to be done in a patient with hypovolemic or hypovolemic shock. Blood urea nitrogen and creatinine is very important. In pre-renal conditions, pre-renal failure, urea will be elevated and creatinine may be normal or slightly elevated. So disproportionate elevation of blood urea when comparing with the creatinine is very, very important. Now, next important investigation is serum sodium. If the patient is having real volume depletion, you can see sodium levels are high. Like urea is high in volume depletion, like that serum sodium also will be high. But whereas in a patient who is having volume excess and intravascular volume loss, like hypotension, in a patient with cirrhosis, sometimes sodium can be low. But in a routine condition, if the patient does not have any volume overloaded condition and if there is a intravascular volume loss and hypotension, the sodium will be slightly higher. Hypernatremia is a sign of volume loss in that type of conditions. Now we can see how to manage a case of volume loss in emergency room. Very mild cases like children and all coming with diarrhea, vomiting. ORS is the simplest way of treating the condition. So ORS contains sodium chloride, glucose, potassium chloride and citrate. All these things can be available in single packet. It should be dissolved in 1 liter clean drinking water and it should be prepared for 24 hours use. After that it should be discarded. So that is very important. Put this packet into 1 liter and give to the child. It should be used for 24 hours, then it can be discharged. No need to boil this ORS solution. Put it in water and give to the child. So in mild cases, ORS is the best treatment for all type of dehydration. If the patient is slightly sick, requires invasive therapy, then you can go for normal saline. Remember, in a patient who is having whatever may be the condition, if the effective intravascular circulation is low, we have to give normal saline. Even if the patient is having volume overload, like somebody is having a liver cirrhosis and volume overload, but effective circulation is low, IVC is collapsible, then you can go for normal saline. That is the best way of treating volume loss, normal saline. But remember, some patients who is having extravascular volume, like cirrhosis, they have a lot of volume extravascularly, intravascular volume is collapsed. Initial management can be by normal saline, but you can also give albumin along with normal saline, because albumin can retain water inside the intravascular compartment. If you give only volume in volume overloaded patient, after sometimes this volume can shift to extravascular space, like in cirrhosis patient can be shifted to abdomen. There albumin is useful. So otherwise, normal saline is the best way of treating patient who is having volume loss and hypotension. Ringer lactate or plasmolite can be replaced for that, because they are better solutions. Plasmolite is costly, but ringer lactate is can be utilized unless patient is having liver failure. But normal saline is the most useful and available solution all over the world. If the patient is having shock or severe hypovolemia, then we require to treat fast. We have to put 2 large bore IV cannulas, 18 gauge preferably. Then bolus crystalloids should be given. Other condition where the mild to moderate fluid loss, we can take time and give, but here we have to give very fast. Fluid bolus of 30 ml per kg over 30 to 60 minutes should be given. That means we have to give very fast fluids, otherwise there will be tissue damage, internal organ damage can occur. So normal saline or ringer lactate can be used as a initial bolus. Then this fluid can be continued according to the urine output. Some doctors prefer albumin after the initial correction of intravascular volume, because albumin can try to retain the fluid inside your blood vessels, but it is very costly. So 30 ml per kg bolus over 30 to 60 minutes is the treatment in shock. After that, we can continue with normal saline. Once the intravascular volume is full, the patient is having still dehydration, that means extravascular dehydration, we can even treat the patient with dextrose, because the problem of dextrose is it can very fast shift to extravascular compartment. Unless until you correct the intravascular volume, you should not use dextrose. Once you correct the intravascular volume, you can, that means if the urine output is good, patient BP has improved, then to correct the extravascular volume, you can give dextrose. Otherwise, what happens is the intravascular volume maintained during the initial phase will be very fast shifted to extravascular compartment, and patient may go to intravascular dehydration. To prevent that, you correct the intravascular dehydration by normal saline plus or minus albumin, then give dextrose, that will very fast shift to extravascular compartment and fill that. So that strategy can be taken there. Colloids are not routinely used, except albumin can be used, but it is very costly. It should not be used in routine cases. Now you can see the distribution patterns of each type of fluid in extracellular fluid and intracellular fluid compartments. Normal saline, normal saline is the best fluid comparing to all other fluids, because if you give normal saline 1 liter, only 30% will remain in the 30% will remain in the intravascular compartment. Rest of the things may shift to extravascular compartment after some time. If you give dextrose, nothing will remain in the intravascular compartment. That is a problem. If you give albumin, the full amount will remain in the intravascular compartment, and it also take external fluid inside, but the problem is it is very costly. So comparing all these factors, the best fluid of choice is always normal saline. Ringer lactate is equally good. Plasma-lite is the most physiological solution. So taking all this into consideration and the availability, normal saline is one of the best choices for emergency room to control the hypovolemia. The most physiological IV fluid is ringer lactate. Plasma-lite is an alternative, costly alternative. But in hemorrhagic shock, treatment is slightly different. You have to classify the shock according to the clinical findings like this: class 1, class 2, class 3, class 4, and the treatment strategy is slightly different in different classes. Initially, in any case of hypovolemic shock, including hemorrhagic shock, you give normal saline. Then here we have to treat the patient with blood transfusion, and if the bleeding is massive, you have to follow massive transfusion protocol. So whenever there is a hypovolemia because of trauma, you have to give blood transfusion. If the massive blood loss is there, we have to go for massive transfusion protocol. It is very simple. Whenever you have a severe trauma, patient will be losing all type of products, like patient will be losing hemoglobin, patient will be losing coagulation factors, patient will be losing platelets. If you correct only RBC, then that will produce more dilution, more dilutional coagulopathy. So you have to give PRBC, FFP, platelet in 1:1:1 ratio. That is massive transfusion protocol. So not a very complicated thing. We are giving whatever product is lost, we are giving it as a different components, like PRBC 1 pint is given, FFP 1 pint is given, platelet 1 pint is given. So every cycle this 1:1:1 will be repeated. So we have discussed about hypovolemic shock and hypovolemic management in emergency room. Depending on the clinical scenario, there may be slight difference, but whatever it is, initial investigations are same, initial management with fluid is also same, and depending on other conditions like sepsis and all, we may have to give some vasopressors. In hemorrhagic shock, we have to give blood. Thank you.